Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Madam Hanani. We are from Group 20. We'd like to present about our data structure project, which is Library Book Record System. So before we start, let me introduce myself and the team. I am Nordiana binti Zaini, and followed by Mashita, Aswini, Nantini, and also Amalina. So for the introduction, I will explain it briefly. Where we choose to develop this project is because the library faced challenges in maintaining organized record and streamlining document management. So outdated paper field cabinets and manual data entry processes hinder efficiency and also consume valuable time. So therefore, to overcome this obstacle, libraries can benefit from utilizing a file management of the software, which is the proposed system, library book record system. There are 6 functions in this library book record system, where the first one is to create and insert the new record. The second one is to delete existing record, save record, update records, display record, and also the last one is main function. So for this, I will explain about create and insert record. So for the coding, for the starting of the coding, we have to create a struct book that to hold the members such as book ID, title, author, and also publication date. So for the struct book next is to point to the next book in the linked list of structure. And for book head equal to null is used to maintain the head or starting point of the linked list of the book. So for the create and insert record function, we name it as the add book function. And actually this function is takes 4 parameters, which is book ID, title, author, and also publication date. This function start by checking if the book ID is already exists in the linked list here. It travels the linked list using a while loop and compares the book ID of each book with the provided book ID here. And if the match is found, it prints a message indicating the book is already found, and it prompts the user to enter a different book ID. Then it returns to the function. Note, so if the book ID is unique and doesn't exist in the linked list, the code is proceed to create a new notebook using a dynamic memory allocation, malloc, and the set of the book allocates the memory of the book structure, and the resulting memory address is stored into the new book pointer. Yeah. So the attributes of the new book, which is book ID, title, author, and also publication date, are assigned using a string copy, where this function copies the content of the provided string into the corresponding attribute of the new book structure. And the next pointer of the new book is set into the null, and it indicates that it is the last node of the linked list. So the code then proceeds to add a new book to the linked list. So if the head pointer is null, example, the linked list is empty, the head is updated to the point to the new book and making it the first and the only one node in the list. And if the linked list is not empty, then the code is traversed into the linked list until it reaches the last node lah, which is the current next is not equal to null. And it then updates the next pointer to the current node to point to the new book, so it effectively adding it to the end of the list. The main function of the create and insert record. So this is the interface of the user, where the user have to choose their action. So as for me, I will choose the add a book, where the user have to enter one to input the book ID, title, author, and also publication date. So in this case, we also provided a validation at our placeholder, where if the input is not equal to 1, input was not read as the integer, and it will pop up a validation message that says that invalid input for book ID, please enter an integer. So this is this will have a repetition until the condition is satisfied. Same goes with the title and also author. We also use the same validation, but for the where the user have to enter a publication date, we also have a validation in this part where the user have to exactly input the input the format of the date provided by the system. So as for our system, we have to provide a year, month, and also date. So if the condition is not satisfied, it was also repeated until the condition satisfied. For the add book, for the call function, we also add the add book where the parameter have been it. Okay, for the next, I will proceed with the demonstration of our project. So, and I will try to run the project code to see the interface. Okay, so this is our interface of the library system, where I have to add a book and So the book added successfully. So I think this is only for my part, and I will give it to the next presenter. Thank you.
Good morning, Doctor. My name is Nandini Dr. Rajagopal. My matriculation number is DI2 10024. I will be presenting a part of my C project code. Specifically, I will explain the remove book function, which is responsible for removing a book from a library. When the remove book function is called with book ID as an argument, it first checks if the head pointer is null, indicating an empty library. If it is, a message is displayed stating that the library is empty, no books to remove, and the functions return. This message will display in red color. Then, next two pointer, current and previous, are initialized. The current pointer is set to head of the linked list, and the previous pointer is initialized as null. A while loop is then used to traverse the linked list. It continues until either current becomes null, indicating the end of the list, or the book ID of the current node matches the specified book ID. If the loop exits because current is null, it means the book with the specified ID was not found in the library. In this case, a message will display book with ID not found in the library and the function return. This message will display in red color also. The loop exits because the book ID was found. The code checks whether the previous pointer is null. If it is, it means the book to be removed is the head of the linked list. The head pointer is then updated to the next node. If the previous pointer is not null, it means that the book to be removed is not the head of the linked list. In this case, the next pointer of the previous node is updated to skip the current node, effectively removing it from the list. Then, after updating the pointers, the code frees the memory allocated for the current node using the free function. This ensures that the memory occupied by the remove book is properly released. Then the free current. Finally, a success message is displayed, indicating that the book with ID removed successfully from the library. This message also will display in yellow color. Switch case 4 for removing a book. In this case statement, the user is prompted to enter the book ID they want to remove. The input is then validate to ensure it is a valid integer. If the input is invalid, an error message is displayed. Invalid input for book ID, please enter an integer. Otherwise, the remove function is called with the provided book ID. This error message is also displayed in red color.
Now I will show the output process for remove a book. I put number 4 as my choice. Then as a book ID, I put number 10. Then a message will display like book with ID 10 removed successfully. Thank you.
Good day, Madam Hanani. I'm Ashwini, daughter of Dharmani, and my matric number is DI210032 and from section 11 and group 20. Now I want to explain about the search function that has been used for our library system, and I will run the output. Starting from line 94 until 105, it will explain clearly about the function search that has been used for our system. So in line 94, book pointer to search book and the book ID, the function takes an integer parameter book ID and returns a pointer to the book structure. In the next line, book pointer to current equals to head, declare and initialize a pointer variable current with the head of the linked list. It will be used to traverse the linked list. And the next line, while current not equals to null, then start a while loop to iterate through the linked list until the current node becomes null. And the next line, if current book ID equals to book ID, check if the book ID of the current node match the specific book ID. And then return current. If a match is found, return the pointer to the current notebook. So the next line, current equals to current next, it will move the current pointer to the next node in the linked list. And the last line, return null. If the end of the linked list is reached and no match is found, return null to indicate the book was not found. INT main will represent which user can search for book in our library system. The case statement 3 is executed when the user chooses to search for book in the library. The user are prompt to enter the book ID to search first. The input validate to ensure it is a valid integer. If an invalid input, it's provide an error message which is invalid input for book ID, please enter an integer. And the input buffer is clearly to prevent any other further issues. The search book function is called passing the book ID as an argument, and it's return a pointer to found a book or null if the book is not found. If a book is found is not null, the book details are displayed including book ID, title, author and publication date. If the book is not found is null. An error message is displayed indicating that the book with the specified ID was not found in the library will display.
Welcome to the library system. I will run the program for search function. So I already added two books in our system. So now we want to search, we want to enter our choice number 3 for search. Enter book ID. So first I will enter a wrong ID, which is I will enter alphabet. So it will display a invalid input for book ID. Please enter an integer. So I will enter a correct integer number, which is 1 for enter ID first, choice first. Enter book ID to search. So I will enter 145. So it will display book details, which is book ID, title, author and publication date. So I search for 145 ID. So it will display the 145 IDs, books, title, author and publication date. That's all from mine. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Madam Hanani. So I am Ashita binti Muhammad Arifin, matric number CI220068. Today I would like to present about update a book function. So as you can see the code here, the given code is a function called update book that updates the details of a book in a library system. The breakdown of the code is the function takes 4 parameters. First, book ID, which is integer, title character pointer, author character pointer, and also publication date character pointer. So in this code, it calls the function named searchBook with book ID parameter to find the book in the library system. The searchBook function is to return a pointer to a book, struck or null if the book is not found. If the book is found, such as book is not null, the code proceeds to update the book's details using the string copy function. And then the code prints a success message using printf with the color yellow code to change the text color to yellow before printing the message. The color reset code is used afterward to reset the text color to the default. So if the book is not found, such as book is null, the code prints an error message using printf function with the color red code to change the text color to red before printing the message. So next, for the switch case function, so as you can see the code here, the code is executed when the switch statement evaluates to the value 5. The purpose of this case is to prompt the user to enter a book ID for updating a book's details. It enters a while loop with the condition while true, which means that the loop will continue indefinitely until a break statement is encountered. After printing the prompt, the code uses the scanf function to read an integer value from the user's input and store it in the book ID variable. The scanf function returns the number of successfully passed input items. Then the code checks the return value of scanf with the condition scanf &d address book ID is not equals to 1 to ensure that a valid integer input was provided. If scanf does not return 1, it means that the input was not a valid integer. If the input is invalid, the code prints an error message in red color and informs the user to enter a valid integer input for the book ID. The code then calls a function called clearInputBuffer that is responsible for clearing the input buffer to discard any remaining characters in the input stream after encountering an invalid input. If the input is invalid, such as scanf returns 1, the code encounters the break statement, which exits the while loop. Next, the while loop is set to continue indefinitely until a break statement is encountered. Inside the loop, it prints a prompt message in cyan color to ask the user to enter a new book title. This code calls getChar function to read a single character from the input stream. This is done to clear the new line character left in the input buffer from a previous input operation. So it then uses fgets to read a line of text from the user's input and store it in the title variable. The size of title argument specifies the maximum number of characters to read. Code then checks the length of the title string using string length title. If the length is 0 or if the isAlpha function returns false for the title, it means that the input is invalid. In this case, the code prints an error message in red color and informs the user to enter alphabetic characters only for the book title. So, if the input is valid, such as the title has a non-zero length and consists of alphabetic characters, the code encounters the break statement, which exits the while loop. In this while loop, it says also to continue indefinitely until a break statement is encountered. Inside this loop, it prints a prompt message in cyan color to ask the user to enter a new book title. It then uses fgets to read a line of text from the user's input and store it in the author's variable. The size of author's argument specifies the maximum numbers of characters to read. The code then checks the length of the author's string using string length author. If the length is 0 or if the isAlpha function returns false for the author, it means that the author is invalid in this case. The code prints an error message in red color and informs the user to enter alphabetic characters only for the book author. If the input is valid, such as the author has a non-zero length and consists of alphabetic characters, the code encounters the break segment, which exits the while loop. This is also a while loop that is set continuously, indefinitely, until the break statement is encountered. Inside this loop, it prints a prompt message in cyan color to ask the user to enter a new publication date in the format year, month, and date. It then uses fgets to read a line of text from the user's input and store it in the publication date variable. The size of publication date argument specifies the maximum number of characters to read. The code then calls a function named isValidDate to validate the input as a proper date in the format year, month, and date. If the isValidDate function returns false or for the publication date, it means that the input is invalid. In this case, the code prints an error message in red color and informs the user to enter a valid date in the specified format. If the input is valid, such as the publication date is in a proper date format, the code encounters the break statement, which exits the while loop. Last but not least, the code calls the update book function to update the details of the book in the library based on the provided book ID, title, author, and publication date. After the function call, it brings out the loop of switch statement where this code snippet is located. Before we proceed with the update book details, we first need to add a book, right? So I have already done that part. I have added a book with book ID 01, book title, data structure and algorithm, book author Khalid Hosni, and publication date 1999-1-1. Okay, so let us update the book. So what we need to do is we enter the option 5 as a choice. Okay, so the system will ask the user to enter the book ID to update. So here we only have 01, so we need to enter 01. And then the new book title, we can just name it to anything, like we just put ABC. Okay, so the new book author, we will put Mina. Year, month, and day, we just put 2010. Okay, so then the book is finally updated. So how we want to check if the book is really updated, we can go to the function number 2 to display all book. So put on number 2. So as you can see, the book title, book author, and the publication date is already updated. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera to Madam Hanani and my friend. So my name is Nur Amalina binti Zailani. My matrix number is CI220019. So today I will present about display function that we use in our project. On the screen, this is the code for display function. For line 1 to 9, the function call display books with no attributes and no return value. For line 130 until 135, the code check if the library is empty. Okay, if head is null, it will print a message that is the library is empty, no books to display. This message will print in the red color. So and the code will return from the function. For the line 138, it declared the Boolean variables that name sorted that initialized to false. So for this code, it used to keep track whether the book have been sorted or not. Okay. So for the line 139 until 143, this while loop is continued until the book is sorted. So inside the loop, it set sorted to true because it want to assume the book are already sorted or not. Okay. This in the loop 2, it also initialize 2 pointer that is current and next that want to point the first and second book in the linked list. Code 144 until 170, this code perform the bubble sort on the linked list. So it compares for the line 145, it compare the book ID of the current with the book ID of the next book. So if the current book ID is greater than the book ID of the next book, it will swap their position. Then the temporary variables will use to store the book information during the swap. Okay, so if a swap occurs during the iteration, it set sorted to false to indicate the book that are not yet sorted. Then after the iteration, it moves to the current and next pointers to the next pair of book in the list. Okay, so for the line 173, it initialize pointer current to point the first book in the linked list. For the line 174 until 178, this code are used to print the header of the book that display book ID, title, author, and publication date. So this code will present a list in output, and it will be printed in color yellow. So for line 180 until 183, so this loop is iterate through linked list of book and will present the information of each book. So it will print the book ID, title, author, publication date in a format manner of each book. Okay. I will present the output. So this is the output. First, I enter the display all books. Then, the output, the message print, the library is empty, no book to display. So I have entered 2 books in the linked list, and the output this is, so it print the book ID, title, auto, publication date that I have entered just now. So it printed in the color yellow. That's all for me. Thank you.